Hi all, welcome to my channel Freewill Life UK. I am your host Francesca Owasho-Campbell, and our topic today is the Molly ruling.
Black Boy Productions. Black Boy Productions. How you done?
Welcome all. Today's topic is about the Molly ruling. Molly Russell, who's to blame? First and foremost, I'd like to say a big condolences to her family and friends. Okay, so let's get into it. So I am going to play a news clipping from Channel 4 News. Right.
A few words cannot possibly encapsulate our wonderful girl.
Molly, a cherished daughter and sister, was just 14 when she took her own life. Soon after, her father opened her email account on the family computer and a door into what he described as an online ghetto with no escape. Instagram and Pinterest bombarded his child, suffering from depression, with what he called a daily drip feed of hopelessness. Social media helped kill my daughter, he told an inquest last week. Today, he was vindicated. The coroner, Andrew Walker, said he couldn't safely conclude that Molly had died as a result of suicide. He said instead that she died as a result of an act of self-harm while suffering from depression and the negative effects of online content. Now, this is the first time ever a court has said that a social media company, in this case Meta and Pinterest, has contributed to the death of a child.
What had happened is she had looked up things on social media that she was interested in, like self-harming. And what social media has done is started to send her more videos of self-harming. She's 14. This content was not for children. Really and truly, it's just not for children. This content is not for anybody. But the algorithms of social media kept sending her more of what she had been looking at. I think this is a huge problem, especially not only just for children, but I think for us as humans. You know, yeah, one time I might want to look at a lipstick. That doesn't mean I want you to send me thousands of lipsticks. It's just not something that I want you to do. And we keep not saying anything. And I think that's what makes it worse, is the fact that we do not say anything. We just let it happen. All right, let's get back into Molly ruling.
Tonight, Prince William commented on the case, saying no parent should have to endure what Ian Russell and his family have been through. Online safety for our children and young people needs to be a prerequisite, not an afterthought. Well, with me now is Beeban Kidron, a peer who chairs the Five Rights Foundation, an organisation which campaigns for online child safety, and Fraser Nelson, who's editor of The Spectator magazine, and he's written about his concerns that elements of the government's online safety bill will lead to censorship. Beeban Kidron, first of all, this is an absolute tragedy for Molly's family and everyone who loved her. An extraordinary ruling from the coroner today. What, if anything, will it change?
I think it was an extraordinary ruling, and I do have to start this by paying tribute to Ian Russell and the whole Russell family, because what they've endured is a battle of 5 years long to get the information that we've seen for the first time in open court, what children up and down the country, all across the globe, are seeing in their bedrooms and in hidden spaces. So I think we have to start there. I think that transparency, a sort of a radical transparency of seeing underneath the hood and really understanding that this is sort of eye-watering amounts of material that kids are being not seen. And I think this is one of the things, not seen, being pushed, recommended, notified, suggested. And I think that is the key takeaway from this, because the online safety bill is an opportunity to say, hey, your products are chasing kids. Your products are designed to push kids into these places. That is actually a question of product safety, not freedom of speech.
So briefly, what will the online safety bill do to stop that?
I think it'll bring in risk assessment. It'll bring in mitigation measures. It'll bring in enforcement of companies to say, have you had a look? Have you considered kids? And what have you done about it?
Fraser Nelson, when you hear Molly Russell's father talk about his daughter's online life, he talked about it as the bleakest of worlds. She was trapped in despair, that the coroner ruled the material she was viewing was just not safe. You accept, presumably, something does need to change.
Yes, to me it sounds like if there are videos glorifying self-harm, glorifying suicide, they should not be legal. They should be banned. The law should stop them happening. What we heard about seemed to be an incredible abuse of power by Facebook. They weren't even going along with the inquest trying to find out what's happening. So I'm not quite sure, but by what methods that was allowed to be seen. It should be against the law. And if not, the law needs to change to make it. But the problem is when the politicians say they want to remove something like this, which everybody would agree it should not be seen by children and should not even be legal. But what the government wants to do is to come up with a new phrase, legal but harmful, and use that basically as a censorship clause that would cover a whole bunch of things. Nadine Dorries, when she was promoting this bill, even mentioned the jokes of Jimmy Carr as something which might be harmful and fall under the power of the bill. So the danger here is that in an attempt to do something which is obviously urgent and very important, which is to make it illegal for social media companies to show anything like this material to anybody, let alone teenagers, that becomes something else, the creating a censorship clause that the government would impose at will and without any real scrutiny.
Baroness Kidron, I mean, is it a fair point? You know, the material Molly was viewing was on the whole legal, clearly very harmful to her. That is complicated, isn't it?
I think we have to separate out a couple of things. First of all, there are some things that the bill brings in and says, these are illegal outside of online settings. They must also be illegal. And to that point, I agree absolutely with Fraser. I think the other thing that I really have to say is that the children's safety duties in the bill are quite separate from this unfortunate phrase, which I also object to, of illegal but harmful. And I think that what we have to look at is see what role are the tech companies playing in abusing our children, and make sure that we have enough law, because Fraser, at the moment, we don't have enough law to take them, to hold them to account, and to make sure that they don't show that. And what's more, don't push that at our kids.
Fraser Nelson, I mean, the point about legal but harmful leaves the question who decides and who monitors and sanctions the tech companies.
That's right. It's a terrifyingly ill-defined definition. And the government bill would allow legal but harmful to be defined by pretty much anybody. The Secretary of State can define that any way that they want, and they can include it to mean any sort of political view that they don't agree with. That's why this bill cannot proceed as planned, and that's why I'm very glad it's been paused and why it should be rewritten. It shouldn't be beyond the wit of Parliament to separate from the idea of things that shouldn't be legal at all. The promotion of suicide should not be legal, and the same with terrorism, the same with a whole bunch of other things. But I think the categories need to be either it's legal or it's not. And so I think the emphasis should be on making sure that what we've just heard about today is illegal and social media companies are punished, and not use this as a means of giving government a tool to censor a whole bunch of other things without any real democratic debate on what the limits of this government censorship power should be.
Fraser will have no argument from me about government powers and about creating.
But how do you get that balance right between freedom of speech and protecting children?
Well, I think you have to look at it this way. If a child goes on and says, I want to do an exercise routine, but within 15 clicks, they're being shown, pro-Anna, material.
So pro-anorexia, so promoting anorexia.
Then you've got to say, hang on a minute, why is that journey legal? And I think the online safety bill, as regards children, has to deal with that. It has to deal with the journey that children are pushed on, not the individual pieces of
Baroness
content.
Kidron and Fraser Nelson, I'm really sorry we're going to have to end it there, but thank you very much for discussing this with us today. And if you've been affected by any of the issues just raised, you can seek help by going to channel4.com/support.
So, as you heard, it can open a can of worms for a lot of things. Should government have the control to censor? Number one, it's either things are legal or illegal, like the gentleman was saying earlier. I don't believe that government should have that much control in what's being censored. Things that are not for children should be censored. Things that are illegal shouldn't even be on the platform in the first place. That every time the government has been given the power to, they move the goalposts. So I do believe if something is illegal, it should not be there in the first place. That's the be all and the end all. It should not have been there to happen in the first place. Secondly, big tech needs to find a way where these algorithms are not sending out negative images, and it should have an age restriction. I just think that there's got to be ways, especially with new technologies that we have today, to distinguish adults from child. Parents also, you have privacy for children set in your, I don't know, social medias on your computer, that they cannot see certain things. And you can set that on your computers for your children. I just think a lot of us don't do that, hoping that our children won't look at certain things. But that's just the hope. That's all it is. I believe there's two sides to every story. I do believe big tech needs to take responsibility for their part, because if she wasn't looking at all this content or negative content, would she still be alive? No one can answer that, but that question shouldn't have been there in the first place. So, big tech, what are you doing about it? And parents, what are you doing about it? But I think it's a collective thing. I think children should not be on social media. I think there should be a restriction. I don't know what the answers are, but I think together as a collective, we can come to a common ground on that. Unfortunately, a life had to be taken to be able to see the harmful effects of social media. And the reasons I think why we haven't seen this previously is because we haven't had social media for that long. Social media is no more than 25 years old. I remember having a MySpace. Yeah, it's not that old. So we do not know the effects of what it can have on the mental psyche. And now that it is 2 decades, we're starting to see what negative side social media can have. And not only that, certain generations below mine only know technology. They don't know anything else. They haven't had the luxury of not having technology. Being able to go to your mate's house and meet your friends, or say to one of your friends, meet me at Mackie D's and 8 o'clock, and you're all there at 8 o'clock. They haven't had that social doctrine outside of social media. This is what's normal to them. So these are the effects that are going to have on the psyche of our youth, of our future. It's sad, but it's true. There's just some content that really doesn't need to be on social media, and we do understand that it is there, and this is where regulations are going to be coming into place. I just do believe that the government shouldn't have that power. I think if something is illegal, it's illegal, and it shouldn't be there in the first place. That's my take on it. I send my condolences to Molly's family and friends. This is a life that could have been saved. It's very unfortunate. So you tell me what you think in the comments below. Big Tech, we're waiting to hear from you on what you're going to do and how you're going to deal with this. So until next time, subscribe, like, unlike, do as you wish, and I'll see you soon.
Productions. Black Boy Productions.